Hello and a very warm welcome to you. It's 10:45 in Paris, time for Africa News. And our top stories today: staying underground. Authorities try and convince miners in South Africa to come back to the surface. But with the police standing by, there's only been a score of takers so far. Waving the flag of revolution, thousands of Libyans take to the streets to celebrate 3 years since the beginning of the end for Muammar Gaddafi. And finally, our reporters catch up with Africa's Sportsman of the Year as he takes France by force. Freed from the mine and immediately arrested, over 20 illegal miners in South Africa have resurfaced from an abandoned shaft. But authorities are still trying to coax others out. Charges for illegal mining can carry fines and even possible prison sentences. The men became trapped when large rocks fell or perhaps were pushed across the entrance of their shaft.
They might have been digging for gold underground, but on the surface, these miners now face a different fortune. South African police have announced these men will be charged for illegal mining. It's not clear how many more remain underground in the disused mine on the outskirts of Johannesburg. It's believed they could number over 200. What is clear is their unwillingness to resurface.
They're apprehensive regards the issue of organised crime due to the fact that it's an illegal operation that they're undertaking. So yes, with regards to some type of arrest, etc., naturally so, they are very reluctant to get out.
Over a dozen more decided to climb out on Monday by their own means, after a huge operation began on Sunday to bring the men out of the abandoned pit. This type of illegal mining is increasingly commonplace in South Africa, with men seeking gold ore to sell. It's a dangerous life and fatal accidents are frequent.
I would discourage communities not to engage in this type of activity. It is very dangerous for themselves and for those that are supposed to perform rescue as they are in trouble.
Rescuers now say they are scaling down their operation, but that police and mine security staff will remain at the site, ready to arrest any further men that resurface. The shaft is expected to be resealed on March the 3rd.
Celebrating the beginning of the end of Muammar Gaddafi's rule, Libyans are out in force, proudly swaying the revolutionary flag. 3 years since their uprising, there are scenes of joy on the streets, but the country is still teetering with widespread violence, as Claire Williams explains.
Waving revolution flags, Libyans gathered to celebrate in Tripoli's Martyrs Square. Crowds created a sea of red, black and green, the colours that symbolised an uprising that ended with the toppling of dictator Muammar Gaddafi.
I cannot explain the feeling of joy that I have. As you can see, everyone is happy that we got rid of the tyrant.
While some cheer the revolution's 3-year anniversary, many bemoan a lack of progress towards political and economic stability. The Libyan government is still trying to rein in former rebel brigades and stop attacks on security forces. Tripoli's chief of police claims his men, on patrol in and around Martyrs Square, have security under control during the festivities.
The security situation is very good. It's excellent. And thank God we're in full control due to the army, police, the military police and the military intelligence.
On Monday, the interim parliament announced key factions had agreed to hold early national elections. That's following a wave of protest against the government's previous decision to extend its mandate.
Well, it's a move that has irked the international community, but under strong domestic pressure, Uganda's president now says that he will sign a law that bans homosexuality. The bill is popular among both locals and lawmakers in the country.
It got a resounding yes in the Ugandan parliament in December, and now the anti-gay bill looks set to be signed into law by the president. Popular both in the halls of power and on the streets, it would see the country's homosexuals jailed for life if convicted. Despite dropping a controversial death penalty clause, the bill also outlaws the promotion of homosexuality and requires people to denounce those they know to be gay. In January, Ugandan President Yoweri Museveni said he thought gay people suffer from a disease and that he would not be signing the bill. But recently, sources close to the president said he'd changed his mind after reviewing scientific advice. Across the Atlantic, President Obama called the bill a step backwards and warned Museveni that signing it would complicate US-Ugandan relations. Homophobia is rife in Uganda, a country where evangelical Christian churches preach that homosexuality is a sin. Gay men and women face frequent harassments and threats of violence. 3 years ago, the leading gay rights campaigner David Kato was bludgeoned to death at his home. If this bill becomes law, it will be another nail in the coffin of the country's gay rights.
Indeed, earlier our correspondent spoke to Pepe Onzima of Sexual Minorities Uganda, who expressed the fear that homosexuals there are living with.
I was shocked and I got really worried. People are already taking the law into their hands. They think the president saying that it means it is already law. So people are already acting. That is already worse. So if he actually signs, you know, we have no life. Yeah.
Well, the president of the Central African Republic, Catherine Samba-Panza, says she hopes French forces will stay there until next year at least. This weekend, international troops stormed anti-Balaka-controlled areas, conducting house-to-house searches and collecting a stash of weapons. Branded as an enemy of peace, the militia insists that what they are doing is self-defence, as our reporters Catherine Norris-Trent and Sylvain Rousseau found out.
A warning sign hangs at the entrance to this anti-Balaka stronghold in Bongi, stating that people here are ready to take to the streets against international forces. Anger has surged since French and African Union troops carried out a large raid to disarm anti-Balaka militias. Even stripped of their weapons, they still have support on the streets.
They are our security. They're good for the country.
They protect us well. Thanks to them, we've been liberated.
Most of the weapons seized were found in this house belonging to the anti-Balaka's political leader, Patrice Edouard Gaissona. He says his men need their weapons for self-defense against the ex-Seleka rebels and that they're not ready to give them up just yet.
We are not the aggressors. We are the victims of aggression. Our country was occupied by mercenaries. We are well within our rights to defend our country. We are not here to make war against the French and African troops.
The new president here and the commander of French forces have condemned the anti-Balaka militias as the enemies of peace, blaming them for attacks on the Muslim population. Their field commander tells us that other armed groups have been carrying out the attacks and that it's beyond their control.
There are those who've been manipulating young people, pushing them to commit crimes in the name of the anti-Balaka. They are hooligans, kids off the streets, who've been pillaging and stealing and being called anti-Balaka fighters.
Anti-Balaka militia leaders here in Bongi have clearly been destabilised by this operation to disarm them. African Union troops have been displaying the large amount of weapons they found in the raid: guns, grenades, munitions. This was clearly a big blow for the anti-Balaka and a change in their relations with the international forces.
Well, we're going to change gear now to end this bulletin and meet Africa's Sportsman of the Year 2013. Natnael Berhané won the Tour de Gabon last month and is now setting his sights on France's famous circuit. Our reporters Nicolas Germain and Romeo Langlois catch up with the Eritrean cyclist.
The region of Vendée in western France is 5,000 kilometers away from Asmara, the capital of his country. Yet Eritrean cyclist Natnael Berhané, who's 23, has chosen to live here. He was recruited by the prestigious Europcar team. Coming from a mountainous nation, Berhané is an excellent climber. He trains on these roads several hours a day to fulfill his dream.
I know I need to work hard to win Tour de France, everything.
Berhané has been living in France for a year and it's not always easy.
It's the hardest one, is to live without your family, everything is the hardest one.
After practice, Berhané likes to inspect the workshop, where mechanics take care of bikes that cost 8,000 euros and weigh less than 7 kilos.
I went to the Tour of Gabon 4 times. We saw him often and noticed he was a good cyclist.
Last month, Natnael was the first African to win the Tour of Gabon, the continent's foremost race. His coach, Jean-René Bernaudot, says he's proud of having recruited an Eritrean cyclist in a sport where there are still very few Africans.
Natnael must become a leader so that many riders in Africa see that when you really want something, you can get it. I hope he'll have a great career, because then it will encourage so many riders in Africa who will say, I want to be like Natnael Berhané.
Berhané stays in contact with his friends in Eritrea thanks to internet. He says he's fulfilled.
I'm very lucky, really, to be in the cyclist. I love more my job is bike, and to become professional and also to become good rider like that. I'm so really lucky and I'm so really happy.
In fact, no luck is involved. If Berhané is here, it's because of his hard work. He now hopes to shine in the world's biggest race, the Tour de France.
Well, that's it for Africa News for tonight. Take care and see you again next time.